Picture this scenario. You're sitting at the airport, about to board a flight to Japan, and you stop by the currency exchange booth. You hand them a crisp $100 bill. The person behind the counter types something into their computer, counts out a stack of yen, and hands you 15,000 yen. 15,000. You walk away feeling like you just won the lottery. You're rich in Japan, right? You've got 15,000 of their dollars. But then you land in Tokyo, you go to grab lunch, and that bowl of ramen costs you 200 yen. You do the quick math in your head. Wait, that's like $8 for a bowl of noodles. Suddenly your 15,000 yen doesn't feel so impressive anymore, and you start asking yourself the question that almost nobody can actually answer. Why is the dollar worth 150 yen? Why isn't it worth 1 yen or 1,000,000 yen? Who decided this? And more importantly, why does it keep changing? My name is Uncle Dan, and I spend way too much time thinking about the invisible systems that control our wallets without us even noticing. If you've ever looked at exchange rates and thought, this feels like made-up numbers, or if you've ever wondered why your vacation got more expensive, even though you're spending the same dollars, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're going to break down why a dollar, a euro, a yen, and a pound are all worth completely different amounts, why that difference matters way more than you think, and why understanding this might be the key to protecting your money from getting quietly stolen. Here's the thing about currency that almost nobody understands. We think of money as this fixed, solid thing. A dollar is a dollar is a dollar. But that's only true inside the United States. The moment you step outside your country's borders, your money becomes a commodity. It's not money anymore. It's a product that's being bought and sold on a global marketplace. And just like any other product, the price goes up and down based on supply and demand. Think about it like this. Imagine you're selling apples at a farmer's market. If everyone wants your apples and you only have a few, you can charge more. If nobody wants your apples and you have a truckload, you have to drop the price. Currency works exactly the same way. If everyone around the world wants dollars because they think dollars are stable and useful, the price of the dollar goes up. If people are trying to get rid of their dollars because they think the U.S. economy is about to collapse, the price of the dollar crashes. It's not magic. It's not a conspiracy. It's just supply and demand applied to paper with dead presidents on it. But here's where it gets interesting. Who decides how much demand there is for a currency? And what makes one currency more desirable than another? This is where most explanations fall apart because the answer isn't just one thing. It's a web of interconnected factors, and understanding this web is the difference between being a victim of currency fluctuations and being someone who can actually profit from them. Let me break down the 5 main things that determine why one currency is worth more than another. And fair warning, by the end of this, you're going to look at your bank account very differently. Factor number 1, interest rates. This is the big one that drives everything else. When a country's central bank raises interest rates, it makes that country's currency more attractive to investors. Here's why. Let's say you have $1 million to invest. You can either put it in a U.S. savings account earning 4% interest, or you can convert it to euros and put it in a European savings account earning 2% interest. Which one are you choosing? Obviously the U.S. account. But to put your money in the U.S. account, you need dollars. So you go out and buy dollars. You're creating demand for dollars. Now multiply that decision by thousands of investors, billions of dollars, and you start to see why interest rates move currency values. When the Federal Reserve raises rates, the dollar gets stronger. When they cut rates, the dollar gets weaker. It's that simple. And this is why currency traders obsess over every single word that comes out of Jerome Powell's mouth. He's not just setting monetary policy, he's literally controlling the value of every dollar you own. Factor number 2, inflation. This is the silent killer of currency value, and it's the one most people ignore until it's too late. If a country starts printing money like crazy, flooding the economy with cash, that currency becomes less scarce. And when something becomes less scarce, it becomes less valuable. It's the same reason why a Picasso is worth millions, but a poster of a Picasso is worth $10. Scarcity creates value. Look at what happened in Venezuela. In the early 2000s, $1 bought you about 2 Venezuelan bolivars. By 2018, $1 bought you over 60,000 bolivars. The bolivar didn't just lose value, it evaporated. Why? Because the Venezuelan government printed money to pay for social programs, the money supply exploded, and the currency collapsed. People were literally using stacks of cash as wallpaper because it was cheaper than buying wallpaper. That's not an exaggeration. That actually happened. Now, before you think, well, that's Venezuela, that would never happen here, let me remind you that the U.S. increased the money supply by over 25% in 2020 and 2021. We printed trillions of dollars. And what happened? Inflation spiked, the dollar lost purchasing power, your grocery bill went up, your rent went up, everything got more expensive. That wasn't corporations being greedy. That was the mathematical consequence of creating too much money too fast. Factor number 3, trade balances. This one is sneaky, and it's the reason why some countries with massive economies still have weak currencies. If a country imports more than it exports, it creates downward pressure on the currency. Here's the mechanic. Let's say the U.S. imports $1 billion worth of electronics from China. To pay for those electronics, we need to convert dollars into yuan. We're selling dollars and buying yuan. That increases demand for yuan and decreases demand for dollars. Do this for decades, running a massive trade deficit, and you're systematically weakening your own currency. This is why China cares so much about being a manufacturing powerhouse. It's not just about jobs, it's about currency strength. Every iPhone assembled in China, every toy, every piece of furniture shipped to the U.S. requires someone to buy yuan. That demand keeps the yuan strong, or at least keeps it from collapsing, even though China prints money like it's going out of style. Factor number 4, political stability. This one is huge, and it's the reason why the dollar and the euro are so dominant, even when their economies are struggling. If you're a billionaire in Russia, or Saudi Arabia, or anywhere else that's politically unstable, where do you put your money? You don't keep it in local currency, because a coup or a revolution could wipe out your wealth overnight. You convert it to dollars and park it in New York real estate or U.S. Treasury bonds. The U.S. dollar isn't just the currency of the United States. It's the safe haven currency of the entire world. When things get scary anywhere on the planet, money flows into dollars. This is called flight to safety, and it's the reason why the dollar tends to strengthen during global crises, even when the crisis is partially caused by the United States. The euro benefits from this too, although less so. It's backed by the combined political and economic power of the European Union. It's stable, it's predictable, and most importantly, it's not going to disappear overnight. Compare that to the Turkish lira or the Argentine peso. Those currencies are in a constant state of crisis because investors don't trust the governments behind them. Political instability equals currency instability, always. Factor number 5, and this is the one that blows people's minds: pure perception. Sometimes a currency is strong or weak simply because people believe it should be. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If currency traders think the Japanese yen is going to weaken, they start selling yen. That selling pressure actually weakens the yen, which proves them right, which causes more people to sell. It's a feedback loop based on nothing but collective psychology. This is why currency speculation is so dangerous and so profitable at the same time. George Soros famously made over $1 billion in a single day by betting against the British pound in 1992. He didn't have insider information. He just correctly predicted that the pound was overvalued and that the market would eventually realize it. He was right. The pound crashed. He walked away with a fortune. But for every George Soros, there are thousands of traders who bet wrong and lost everything. Currency markets are brutal because they're driven by human emotion as much as economic fundamentals. Now, here's where this starts to matter for your actual life, not just for billionaires playing currency roulette. Every time the value of the dollar changes relative to other currencies, it affects you in ways you probably don't even notice. Let's say the dollar strengthens against the euro. Suddenly, European goods get cheaper for Americans. That sounds great, right? But here's the flip side. American goods get more expensive for Europeans. U.S. companies that export to Europe see their sales drop. Those companies start laying people off. Some of those people might work for your company or live in your town. A strong dollar is great for consumers, but terrible for exporters. A weak dollar is great for exporters, but terrible for consumers. There is no free lunch. And if you're someone who travels internationally, you feel this directly. A few years ago, $1 bought you 1.15 euros. Today, $1 buys you about 0.92 euros. That means your European vacation just got about 20% more expensive, even though the hotels and restaurants are charging the exact same prices in euros. You're paying more because your currency is weaker. This is why retirees who live abroad obsess over exchange rates. A 10% swing in the dollar can be the difference between a comfortable retirement and having to move back to the States. But here's the really scary part, and this is what keeps me up at night. Most people have no idea that their savings are quietly being devalued through currency manipulation. When the Federal Reserve cuts interest rates to stimulate the economy, they're weakening the dollar. When they print money through quantitative easing, they're weakening the dollar. And when the dollar weakens, your purchasing power drops. You're being taxed without anyone calling it a tax. It's an invisible transfer of wealth from savers to borrowers, from the middle class to the government and the wealthy elite who own assets that appreciate when the currency weakens. This is why rich people don't hold cash. They hold real estate, stocks, gold, art, anything that isn't denominated in a currency that can be printed at will. They understand that currency is a game rigged against people who save in cash. The longer you hold cash, the more you lose to inflation and currency devaluation. It's not paranoia, it's math. So what do you actually do with this information? How do you protect yourself? First, stop thinking of the dollar as money. Start thinking of it as a medium of exchange that loses value over time. That mental shift alone will change how you handle your finances. Second, diversify out of cash. If you're sitting on a pile of savings in a checking account earning zero interest, you're getting destroyed. Put that money to work. Buy index funds. Buy real estate. Buy literally anything that produces value and can't be printed by a central bank. Third, if you're internationally mobile or you do business across borders, start paying attention to currency trends. There are periods where it makes sense to convert dollars to other currencies, and periods where you want to be all in on dollars. You don't need to be a professional trader. You just need to understand the basics of what moves currency values and act accordingly. And fourth, recognize that currency fluctuations create opportunities. When the dollar is strong, it's a great time to buy foreign assets or take that international trip. When the dollar is weak, it's a great time to export goods or invest in U.S. companies that do business overseas. The people who win are the ones who pay attention and adjust their strategy instead of just hoping everything works out. Look, the whole concept of why currencies have different values comes down to this. Money is a story we all agree to believe. The dollar has value because we believe it has value. The yen has value because we believe it has value. The moment that belief breaks, the currency collapses, and history is littered with currencies that were once considered rock solid and are now worthless. The German mark, the Zimbabwean dollar, the Soviet ruble, every single one of them collapsed because the story stopped being believable. The difference between thriving and barely surviving in the modern economy is understanding that currencies are not stable, they're not safe, they're constantly shifting, constantly being manipulated, and constantly transferring wealth from those who don't understand the game to those who do. You can either be passive and let the system churn through your wealth, or you can be active and use these fluctuations to your advantage. If this video made you see money differently, if you suddenly realize that the numbers in your bank account are more fragile than you thought, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep breaking down the invisible systems that control your financial life until everyone has the tools to fight back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.